So, Joe, we've had a few guests on recently that I feel like we've kind of alluded to pricing. We've talked about it specifically in some of our episodes, but it made me realize I don't think we've ever actually talked about pricing as its own topic on the show. We've like been around the bush with it a little bit. And I think it's really important for solopreneurs to get right. And they're not going to get it right the first time. I really think that it's something that you have to learn through experience of what to price. But let's say, I mean, what are your thoughts on setting your price and getting it to a point where you're not just living paycheck to paycheck and scrambling?
Well, I think first and foremost, I really think, and it comes back down to something we do say all the time on this show, it's about niching down and solving a very specific problem or set of problems for a bunch of people that have those problems and see you as the solution. Because if you come in and you say, I'm a writer and I'll write stuff for you, right? Now you're basically that kind of pure and simple freelancer selling time for money, right? And so you're a writer, so I need a writer, so maybe I'll hire you to write things. But if you come in and you say, I am a copywriter for top performing social media posts, or I will help you write your memoir so that your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will know your story, or something where there's a really specific need, pain point, whatever it is, and you position yourself as the solution, now your rates are a lot higher, right? You're not trading time for money anymore. You're trading solutions for money. So I think that's one of the things that you need to do to really get to that point of being able to charge what you're worth. I think that's a step one.
I think it's a mindset thing. I think you need to chart the person that we were talking to that made me think we should do this episode is they were saying chart like think of what you think you're worth and then add 10%. So that it's not like you're shooting for the moon, but you're charging more than you think you should. But that also accounts for technology that you need to purchase. I mean, you're not just billing for your time. You have software you need to use. You have taxes you need to pay. You have buffer time that things are going to take you longer than you think they will. And even if you're on a retainer model, you still have to factor in how long things are going to take to set your prices. And so go just above what you think that is to start. And then I think you can always scale from there.
So there's this old joke, and I can't remember it exactly. So, but there's some, I don't know. I think it was an engine on a Navy ship, and it wasn't working, and nobody could make it work, and everybody was trying to fix it. And this one guy comes in, he says, "I can get the working for $10,000." And they said, "Okay, if you can fix it, we'll give you $10,000." And he walks in and he takes like a hammer and he just whacks it at this certain spot, and boom, the engine starts moving. And they said, $10,000 to smack a thing with a hammer a couple of times? He goes, "No, you're not paying me for smacking it with the hammer. You're paying me for all the experience it took to know where to smack it." And that's what you're really dealing with here. You're not just getting you paid for the hour that you work or the project that you do. It's the thousands of hours that went into making you the expert that you are, that you didn't get paid for, or maybe didn't get paid a fair wage for, or whatever it is that you're now charging for. And you need to keep that in mind, because it's not just about that hour you put in. It's about the fact that there were probably 1,000 hours that let you do that 1 hour effectively.
That is such a good point. And the other thing I want to bring up is we have read Alex Hormozi's books along with millions of other people who have read those books. Maybe I'm making the millions up, but I don't think I am. I think that's true. Um, what does he say about pricing that appeals to you?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, he says that, and he says a lot of things about pricing. One of the ones I read the other day was, that the less your customers pay, the more problem they are. And I got to be honest, I've had that experience in my life where my last startup, we had created an enterprise software company, and we had customers spending anywhere from $4,000 and change a year to $700,000 a year for our software and systems. And it was true that some of those smaller customers, the 1, 2 seats, maybe 3 seats, were sometimes such a big pain in the neck, especially on a per dollar basis, compared to the ones that were spending a lot of money. And it's just got to do with, they don't have as many systems in place and that kind of thing to deal with stuff. So they're always putting it on you. And there's only so much a solopreneur can typically do in that department, right? I mean, you're not going to necessarily be selling $700,000 a year software packages to Fortune 25 companies as a solopreneur. Maybe you are. Good for you. Awesome. But the idea that, sometimes those bargain hunters are the worst. And charging a little extra and having a few people say, no, that's too much, isn't bad. In fact, if you don't have a few people balking at your price, you're probably priced too low.
Yeah, and if you are priced too low, you'll just get overwhelmed because you'll get so many of those bargain hunters that you were talking about. And it's just a one-way ticket to burnout and not liking the business that you've always dreamed of running, which is a really big bummer.
Most solopreneurs need to charge more than they're charging, but you need to position it right. Otherwise, you just look like, maybe you look like I'm a writer, but I charge twice what other writers charge. And people go, no, I'm not going to pay double for no reason. But give them a reason, and now they'll do it happily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is kind of like setting your initial price, I feel like what we're talking about, but this also applies to upping your prices for current clients too.
Yes.
Because if you're providing the value that you say you're going to provide and even go a step further than what you say you'll provide, they'll want to stay with you. I mean, the guy with the hammer, he hopefully they'd still hire him for other projects because it may have taken a few minutes to use that hammer to fix the problem. But if you provide the value, one, they're probably going to want to stick with you, but they'll also refer you to others and you can charge that higher price point to others. So I think it scares people to raise prices, but you shouldn't be scared if you're providing what you say you're going to. And obviously, like you were saying, you don't need to triple prices on a client that you've had for a while, but just do a little incremental increase and people understand. They're probably doing the same thing.
Well, the thing that we need to remember, and this is where my gray hair comes in handy, is that we've had a long spell, and up until a few years ago, of very low inflation. And it was hard to raise prices because inflation just didn't feel like a thing. I was a kid back in the 70s when inflation went crazy. And it was, raising prices was kind of just expected. And so now we're back there we've got this inflation thing going on again, and so it's a lot easier for people to go, yeah, I guess they're raising prices too, because the eggs are more expensive and I'm paying more for my gasoline or whatever it is at the time. But it's just a function of it's an easier time to raise prices now than it was, say, in 2018 or something when inflation was running at 2 and change %.
And like you were saying, a more necessary time.
That too, yes.
Just for cost of living, you probably should be raising your prices because it is going up. Joe, any other parting words on this topic?
Well, I think an important thing to do, and this goes back to Hormozi's thing, is to kind of, position your product in a way that you're solving these very clear pain points for a group of people and, try to make it a pretty narrow group of people. But then also anticipate the reasons that they think it won't work for them and be able to very quickly talk to those things that maybe make them say, no, it's not going to work for me and why it will, and address their concerns, the reasons that they think it might fail or might not work, and have that right in your back pocket as you're, creating your website or your landing page or a video or a one-on-one sales pitch, whatever it is. Understand that from the perspective of the buyer, they're looking to get rid of a pain point or two. They're looking for somebody that they feel confident can do that for them. And you need to be able to basically say, I'm the one for you. I can do this. And yes, I know you're worried, but here's why it's going to work. And here's why your worries are not, why I'm going to make sure those worries aren't going to come to fruition and it's going to be all right. And if you can give people that level of comfort in what you do, which is why I suggest narrowing down, because you want to know you can do that, right? Now you've got a situation where you can charge a lot more money and people will be happy to pay it.
Well said. I think that's a great place to stop. And I just think it's such good food for thought for people that are considering raising their prices or just where to start in the first place. So listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please share this episode with a friend. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. And we will see you next time on The Aspiring Solopreneur.